speaking of racial slurs, your boy Kanye, man. What's up with Kanye, man? We gotta talk about what's up with Kanye, man.
He was doing him, he had a mix of medication that, allowed him to have the Roseanne effect, or, what I'm saying, just kind of talking out the guns.
No, I don't want to hear those excuses because I was on medication too. I've been off my Lexapro, and I did.
And also off the face of the earth, my brother. Where have you been? Come on.
None of that made me vote for Trump being off my Lexapro. So I don't know what Kanye's talking about. But your boy Kanye, who's been on his Make America Great Again campaign, designed Blexit merch for Candace Owens. And are you aware of this Blexit campaign that Candace Owens is promoting?
Now, does that have anything to do with the Brexit of the UK?
So it's a playoff of that. So okay. Blexit is a moniker which is a playoff of Brexit, and which was the United Kingdom's move to separate from the European Union. And Candace Owens is trying to start a campaign to encourage black voters to leave the Democratic Party. And that's the reason why it's Blexit. It's supposed to be the black exit from the Democratic Party.
Really quickly, it's so funny that, like when a blood can't sock and crip, or is it when the blood doesn't want to acknowledge a crip, they'll exchange the C's with B's. So instead of saying "k," or was it vice versa? I forget, where they don't want to acknowledge the letter of the opposing party.
Yeah, bloods, they'll use B's, and then gangsters use G's or whatever. It's just, I don't think it's necessarily acknowledging the other. It's just that's their slang version of, to show you that they're blood or cuz or gangsta, is that that's how they change the words, if you will.
I don't know why I always interpret it that way. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Either that's how it sounded like, though. That's what it sounded like. No, so tell me about it, because that's I want to say that he was just bought out. That's just straight up what it was. He was bought out along with, who was it? Not Solange. Who was the? Damn it! I used to like her as a singer. She was one of the performers at Trump's inauguration.
Chrisette Michele.
Chrisette Michele, which again, there's a Kanye connection with that. And I just thought, okay, look, they were just bought out because unfortunately you got to appease to so many different races and demographics. So, you get them on the podium with you. Just how I remember every time we saw any kind of black representation for Trump, they always had they look like the two sisters that he just cherry-picked from, your local Baptist church. Put them on stage and kind of just let them run with it. Like,
there's my African-American right there. You see him? There's my African-American right there.
Loud.
African American, that's mine. He's mine. I claim him.
Ooh, look at the hat on that one. Ooh, it's a big hat. Ooh, bring him over here.
So essentially, I guess, so Candace Owens has been starting this or whatever. Her and Kanye became friends. She kind of talked to Kanye about the whole all blacks don't have to be Democrats, which of course that is the case because, especially a lot of rich black people aren't Democrats. A lot of rich black people vote Republican because they want them tax cuts and all that. So, I mean, I get it. It's the game that we all play. But, so Blexit, according to Candace Owens, is a renaissance. And she says, I'm blessed to say that this logo, these colors were created by my dear friend and fellow superhero, Kanye West. And so she posted pictures on Instagram. And then these photos here are some of the designs that Kanye did for Blexit. This is New York Post. Nikki Schwab shared images and shirts, which they handed out at an event.
Is it me and again, I'm pretty sure, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody here because I'm pretty sure that's part of the look. But even with Kanye's clothing, not to say that a retard created it or that they wrote it, but like when you look at it, like it's like, I know it's purposely supposed to look old or ragged or non-branded, but like even when we see the designs for this shit, like it looks like he got Saint or something to write the letters or some shit. Like, is he trademarking, like, what's the word for it when you have shitty handwriting?
No, I think Kanye is a prime example of when you have someone who's famous who then has money and then starts selling stuff that any common person can do, but because they're famous, people buy into it. Like, I have yet to see any creative genius in any of the the Kanye put out stuff. Now, when it comes to the shoes or whatever, the shoes are out of my tats bracket. So I've heard from shoe experts that some of the shoes are dope, some of them aren't. But for the most part, the majority of the Kanye stuff I see, it isn't anything fresh or new. It's Kanye's name is what they're paying for. Same thing with, you'll see a lot of the Supreme gear where it's just as Supreme, but hype beasts will hop all on it and be like, oh man, I copped that new Supreme. It's like, that looks like everything else that's out. It just says Supreme on it. So
I remember when I wanted to make my own little fantasy brand, because I always thought I was gonna have a conglomerate. Well, Lord willing, I get my conglomerate one day of having all these little entities. And when I thought of the clothing, I always thought to myself, because I came from a culture in the south side of Phoenix where you always had to be on, and you could maybe tell me if maybe I'm mistaken, but I always felt like we always had to be at K-Momo with the freshest white tee, get that 3 for $10 deal on, and that way you always just had the most crispest of attires. And I remember always thinking to myself, because like there's a big difference from your old Fruit of the Looms, which ain't bad, it does the trick, and like genuinely like good material. And I know that's always something that I had hopes in when I got suckered into the state prop and unit clothing shit, back in the day. And you're so happy to have this brand, but it's some of the cheapest material because they're trying to get people to afford it and to buy it, and I don't know,
it's made in China the majority of the time. It's just like MAGA hats, but that's another story. But no, yeah, that is the case. Is just hype beasting. But no, and it's funny though, because all that happened with Blexit, and I don't know what was the result of this, but Kanye came out.
Woo. God bless you.
Woo, thank you. So Kanye came out, and he apparently says that he feels that he's been used, and he was stepping away from politics, as reported by TMZ.
Well, we know we can always trust them. They have all the tea spilled at perfectly right time. That again can always be orchestrated. But so what is it? So what do you think he just finally like read up his medication and he realized, oh shit, no wonder Kim didn't have to give him the head to get her great auntie, second removed cousin out of jail over some kind of minor drug offense. He was using me the whole time? Like, what kind of revelations do you think he was coming to? Or do you just feel this is the ultimate cop-out to not taking a responsibility for whatever he thought he could have achieved?
So, as it comes out, as it was said, oh, that's funny, actually, as this page loads slowly. So Kanye came out and he says that his being used was in reference to Blexit. So he says that he was being used by people to spread a political message that he's now done with. Kanye fired off a series of tweets, apparently distancing himself from politics. He said, "My eyes are now wide open and now realize I've been used to spread messages I don't believe in. I am distancing myself from politics and completely focusing on being creative." So the issue is apparently with ultra conservative Candace Owens. He says, "I introduced Candace to the person who made the logo and they didn't want their name on it, so she used mine. I never wanted any association with Blexit. I have nothing to do with it." Owens had said that Blexit, which is once again the black exit for the Democratic Party, is a renaissance, and she said that she was blessed that Kanye created, so on and so forth. Now,
I wonder if he thought it meant something else.
What's up?
I wonder if he thought it meant something else, like I'm black and I'm making a scene, I'm leaving. Like what could he have thought?
The one thing, like a lot of people took this as him saying like, oh, he's stepping away from the Republican Party, or oh, he's stepping away from Donald Trump. No, he reached out to TMZ and was like, no, Trump is still my guy. I still rocks with Trump. His issue is with Blexit. Now, the thing is, and this is what the issue is that I think a lot of us have been saying with Kanye, is that Kanye, and this goes for a lot of like rich people, They live in a bubble. They live in a bubble of their own reality. So Kanye came out, he was supporting Donald Trump. He was doing the wear the Make America Great Again hat. And people were trying to say, well, are you aware of everything that's been going on with Trump for the past couple of years? He's like, no, guys, stay out of my thoughts. You can't put thoughts in my head. You're trying to control me with your thoughts. Stop. I'm a free thinker. I get to think the way I want. And then he was like, oh, I'm rocking with Candace Owens because, you know, she's a free thinker and you know, she's black, but she's a free thinker because she's a Republican, and all you other black people are slaves because you guys are Democrats. And then she's like, oh, wait, no, stop. She's trying to put ideas in my head. I think at the end of the day, what we are seeing is Kanye West is a man who had a mental health breakdown several years ago and still hasn't recovered from it. And what I would rather, instead of seeing Kanye out here in the public doing all this shenanigans, I want Kanye to go somewhere, sit down, have some rest, talk to a therapist, and figure out, because I don't think he's recovered from that mental health breakdown. I think that's honestly what it comes down to, and that's the reason why he's so confused. He's going this direction, he's going that direction. Kanye is still recovering from that mental health breakdown.
Let me ask you, because a few years ago is when Donna, you know, had passed away. Yep. And I forget, was it complications during surgery?
Yeah,
is that
surgery? Yeah, she had the plastic surgery, and the complications from that, she passed away.
Now, I'm wondering, you and obviously we all go through it, but I'm also more curious when you're able to acknowledge it and then take the proper steps, and you went through so much of a rigmarole of not only trying to counterbalance things to just find out that it's not even I don't know if you came down to it not being needed at all over something else, but either which way, once you take that step, do you see it be more of a matter of stabilization, or do you feel like there's some kind of just switch that needs to be flipped? I mean, I guess no, that kind of sounds dumb.
So I can say with my situation, because, you know, I was a proponent of that. Yeah, around when I turned 30, I started getting on antidepressants. I was taking a whole bunch of drugs, and, you know, they had me on antidepressants and they had me on anxiety medication, so on and so forth, to deal with different things. Now, what I came to conclusion with was that stuff was a Band-Aid that was being put on there. But at the end of the day, those issues were still on the inside. And so that's the reason why I got off of the stuff or whatever. And there was a scenario where, and that's around when I got into my legal issues, was as I was transitioning off of those drugs, I was off my rocker for quite a while trying to balance it. But what the issue is you need to face your problems, and you need to face your emotions on the inside. And when you ignore those, that's why you have blow-ups down the line. So in the Kanye West example, what's been documented, what it appears, his mom passed away, and when his mom passed away, he kept working. So he didn't grieve. He just got right back to work, worked on 808 and the Heartbreaks, kept going, worked on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
He kind of got hit into, I don't know if this sounds outlandish to say, because I know he had his singles already, but I think the 808s and Heartbreaks really took him into the stratosphere of crossing over to full-on emo kids, which, even though he already had white fans beforehand, one thing that kind of is where he really elevated, and kind of there's no stopping him then.
Yeah, because that's when he, around when his mom passed away, is when he started working with Kid Cudi. And it's been well documented that the majority of Kanye's stuff he has ghostwriters. Ghostwriters have been writing a lot of his stuff his whole career. And that is where 808s and Heartbreaks came from, was Kid Cudi was working with them. But when it comes to his mental health issues, I think the issue is his mom passed away. He didn't take time off. He went right into working on 808s and Heartbreaks, and he, you know, just kept working. So then he never processed that emotion. Then eventually over time, after not processing that, eventually that stuff comes back to surface. And then he had that very public mental health breakdown while he was on tour, talking about Jay-Z got killers trying to kill him and all that. And then he had the mental health breakdown, and then he disappeared for a while, got on medication, so on and so forth. And then the second he started feeling better, instead of continuing to focus on that growth and that recovery, he hopped right back into this 7-album, 7-song length or whatever, so on and so forth. So I still think that the issue is Kanye still has not taken time off to process anything. I think the second he feels like, oh, I'm okay, he hops right back into work, and he's going to have, knock on wood, because I don't want to see it happen, he's going to have another mental health breakdown. breakdown, because he needs to take time off and he needs to process these emotions instead of ignoring all this stuff. And instead of when people are trying to give him some actual advice and be like, oh no, stop, you're trying to put thoughts in my head or whatever. No, we're trying to tell you, Kanye, you're sick and you need some help. That's what we're trying to say, is that you don't seem well. You're hopping all over the place with a lot of your thoughts and your ideas and emotions or wherever. You don't seem well. That's what we're trying to tell you. And you're trying to mask all that by constantly working on music and putting out stuff. No, you need to sit down somewhere and figure this out. Oh, I think Papo's mic is out. I can't hear him.
Yo, you can't hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Yo, all right. What do you think what ran through your head when you heard him? And again, I kind of see this as a Trump effect. I also try to see it as wanting to think good things into existence. When he had said that his mental disability, or whatever you want to call it, disease, when he said that it's not a, what is it? He said it in his album. He's like, it's not a disease. I'm a superhero, or some. What did he say?
Yeah, I heard him say something. Yeah, it's not a disease. It's a superpower. To that extent. Yeah.
What do you think about that? Like, do you think that's just him BSing, trying to make it sound cool?
I think him just he has diarrhea of the mouth. He just says things, and like, I do get what he's saying or whatever, because you shouldn't look at anything as a handicap. Anything that you are blessed or cursed with, you're supposed to use that to move forward or whatever, to push you further. A good example of like Kobe Bryant, when Kobe was in the NBA. Kobe, not necessarily that he suffered from anxiety, but that was the whole thing, was Kobe always had this complex of how he wanted to be better in Jordan. He wanted to be better than this. You show up to the arena with these butterflies in your stomach or whatever, and you use all that energy to propel you to be the greatest at what it is that you do. And so there is that thing of any handicaps or anything that you have, you're supposed to use that as a power. But I think the whole thing is Kanye still isn't using it as a superpower. He's using it as an excuse to then still not face the fact of what he's going through. And I think Kanye he just spouts a whole bunch of crap out. And I think that's a prime example. The reason why you see Jay-Z and Beyonce have distanced themselves from Kanye, because he won't listen. And the whole thing, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And I can tell you, all the fuck shit you're doing and the bad decisions that you're making, but unless you want to listen, I can't keep telling you. Like, you need to learn this for yourself, because obviously when I've tried to tell you, you're not listening. So
do you think that's it then? Do you think that's why they've distanced themselves, because they see how outlandish he was? Like, you figure after him making a scene, during freaking Taylor Swift's acceptance of whatever award that she was going to win that one time at the VMAs, to give the shout out to Beyonce having the best album. Do you think he maybe thought that was going to get him in, or is that maybe one of the annoyances? I feel like it started then. That's when we saw the.
And I think they were cool back then. I don't think they had any issues with it. It was back then. It was Kanye being Kanye, but I think it reached a point where it stopped being Kanye, and it's like, no, you're kind of out of pocket now. And it's like, no, I just do what I want to do. And it's like, well, no, you're wilding now, and you need someone to. And that's the reason why there has been talks about the reason why Kanye has had all these issues is because he's surrounded by Kardashians. He needs some black women in his life to ground him, and that's the problem. Is that there's no one around to keep him grounded. He's around a bunch of fluffy celebrities or wherever. He's surrounded by a bunch of yes men. It goes back to Eminem.
Well, all it does is create more publicity, and that's the business that they're in.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing or whatever. And eventually you're going to run into a scenario when what's going to be best for Kim's business is divorcing Kanye. And then when that's what's best for her business is that's when she's going to divorce his ass, and then he's going to have to figure this out all over again. But when it comes to
transgender,
what's up?
I said, Lord forbid that he comes out transgender afterwards.
Oh, that would be hilarious. That would be hilarious, because then we gotta address again what goes on with why everyone breaks down when they're around the Kardashians. But no, going back to the yes man, a good example is Eminem. When Eminem, around the Encore album, Eminem was on drugs or whatever, and he had all those issues, and he says that the reason why his music was coming out horrible was he was surrounded by a bunch of yes men. He was surrounded by a bunch of people who wouldn't tell him, no, dog, that shit that ain't it. Like, it was a bunch of people, yeah, whatever you say, that's what we say. And then when you constantly surround yourself with those people, you can never grow, and you could never, you're going to keep running into these issues because you just have a whole bunch of people around you placating to you.
Did you are you a fan of Queen at all?
Yes, I don't know a whole bunch of their stuff, but I do know of Queen.
My daddy, now looking back, was very questionable on sexuality, but I remember he would always be singing. That was always part of life, and I think that's why I can be flamboyant at times, just because, you know, I was inspired by Freddie Mercury. And I recently, the biopic came out, and it's fucking every fan's dream unless you're a nitpicker. And one of the things that was they mentioned in the movie, I love that they mentioned it, because that's what everybody was thinking when, you know, they finally, because everyone had their own side projects or whatever, as every group does. I mean, shit, Migos, literally everyone has had their side project. Which, by the way, have you heard of each of the Migos' albums?
Well, I heard some of it, but yeah.
Never have heard each of those things, but I've heard at least a single from each of them.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that I kind of like Takeoff, because you could understand the words that he's saying. Anyways, going back to the Queen thing, when there was the split and Freddie finally got his solo deal, he mentioned later on when he got back with the group, he's like, I didn't have the bassist, or no, what do you say? The drummer would always give him shit. The guitarist dude, Brian May, he would always help him with the rewrites, and then, you know, they'd finally go back to the bassist dude, like, what do you think? And he leaned one way or another, right, to make a decision, so that, again, it's a democracy somewhat in the creation of things. And so I can understand, like, not having, again, because all he said it so eloquently when Remy Malek, when he played Freddie Mercury, but he said, he's like, when I did my solo album, no one told me no. They gave me exactly what I wanted. Again, and he didn't have the well-balancedness of, you know, getting out of your own head.
Yeah. And that's exactly what the issue is. Kanye and again, you don't have to do what everyone tells you to do, but you need people who can tell you, hey man, you fucking up here, or hey, that ain't a good decision. You need those people around you, or else you're going to continue to make the same mistakes, and it's only going to get worse. So
I could see them, and especially with the meme culture that we have. I don't need no negative people in my life. There's essence of being negative, and there's also just caution. And I feel like that gets blurred by the messenger as well.
Exactly.
If you didn't like this podcast, it's probably because you're racist.
Yeah.
Fuck your feelings, though.
Yeah. What's up, man? You hear me?